All right, guys. Welcome to today's session. So the topic for today's debate is the farmers' protest in India were for a just and valid cause, agree or disagree. And the fact sheet is a bit interesting because, like, when I posted this on Bing, basically it just said that there is no specific reason why somebody might disagree with this. So it seems a little bit biased. But obviously, the protest began in, I mean, way back in 2020, we had the protest, and then again we had a renewed efforts in that regard. The primary demands being like securing legal assurance for minimum support price, and there were some other auxiliary demands as well. And so there are like I would say that the overwhelming sentiment about the farmers protest, especially on like social media and things like that, was that it was pro farmer support. And there were like some perspectives on what was the criticism against these protests was that there was a lot of people who said that these concerns were primarily rooted in certain regions like Punjab or Haryana or places like that where they were against the whole new reforms that were being brought up, and that the larger majority of people, there were people who are not so vocal, but they wanted those reforms. So that was one criticism. And then it's also the Indian government has previously criticized the protests as being influenced by foreign conspiracies or infiltrated by separatist elements. There definitely was that. There was some news of like these toolkits prepared by these external entities in order to influence these internal domestic issues. And then there were concerns about economic impact of the protests. Like they were basically like doing a lot of things like blocking roads, and there was a lot of inconvenience caused. But also that there are a whole section of people who are for these reforms because they want a certain reform to come about in the agricultural space to sort of like open up the market. There are people who say that these reforms are going to be the same as what we had in the 1990s in terms of like opening up the market, and instead of having like a very domestic or like socialist kind of a setup, we had like a more capitalist setup, and that was something that actually resulted in a lot of development. So there are like that kind of arguments as well. So this, I hope this kind of sets a context as to like how we are going to look at this issue, and there are multiple dimensions here, and I really am looking forward to a solid session here. So with that said, we're going to start with the session, and for those of you who are new, we are going to go one by one. So you can take turns, and if you have something to say, just click on the reactions button at the bottom and raise your hand, and you can speak. So first, we can get a sense of like who's for the farmers protest and who's against it. Uh, if you can like quickly establish your stance, that'll be great. Yeah, HP, go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. Before, if you just want to put it out right, I would say I am for farmer protests. But before that, I would just like to give a context of things why as far as MSP and the demands and everything else is there. So I'm not saying all of them are right, all of them are valid. But what I'm trying to say is I stand with farmers because of alienation that happens with these people, especially when they are associated to Khalistani elements, or when people say these people have these foreign influences and interests at their behest. What happens because of that is uh, people like Amritpal and very other uh, anti-Indian elements start coming to parliament. When you isolate a community and tell them, no, you're not as Indian as you can be, and you have foreign help and your interests are against the country, so you're taking a big chunk of a big community and linking them with something that actually is anti-Indian, and in one way or other way it makes them think, yeah, maybe you yourself telling them you're not part of us. So I think any kind of protest in a democracy, I'm not saying should be encouraged or discouraged, but should be respected as far as we are a democracy. If you can see protests that take place in other countries, European countries, you can see how these farmers just take up the whole this chunk of cow dung or agricultural waste and dump at the parliament, at the president's house, at the prime minister's house. So if they have that much amount of liberty, let's not judge our farmers. Let's say they want something, maybe it's area specific, maybe it's coming from Punjab and Haryana and these regions constantly, but linking them to an anti-India element and in honest, if there is something like that, we have raw, we have other agencies, they should come to power and execute whatever connections they can establish and arrest people accordingly. But character assassinating them, calling them terrorists via media, is alienating a huge community and being a participant of a democracy. I don't think we can in any way oppose any kind or sort of protest. We have seen same situations exaggerating in Manipur. We have seen same situations exaggerating in Kashmir. We have to some extent seen this happening in Kerala. So when you just target the whole community and tell them that there's some support or these are India elements, even they're pro-nationalistic and very patriotic people also lose their stance in these regions to give us say, this is wrong, this is not what it is. So I think that changes the base. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, HP. Yeah, I think you brought a good point. So I would say that this is a secondary issue, tangential issue, very important, but still like a tangential issue to the primary thing. So let me re-summarize the whole thing. So initially, like when the reforms were introduced, like when the reforms were like sort of like passed without a discussion, there were a lot of problems with it already. That like there were a lot of people who felt that this was done way too quick, and the people were complaining that this is actually you're kind of like circumventing democracy when you pass a reform with unilaterally without any prior discussion about things. So that was a primary criticism against the way things were done, and you can say that this was done in anticipation of the strong opposition, and so already there was a problem with that. So in response to this, basically all the farmers like they gathered and they caused a civilian movement against this whole thing. And again, there was some criticism against the way that was conducted, because there were like incidents of violence being reported by these people. Like, there were people like carrying swords and like attacking the cops or something like that. We've seen those kinds of images as well. And I would say that on both sides, right, there were like people on both sides who did questionable things. Even during the pro farmers protest, there were people who were attacking people and causing violence, and then there were people who were basically adding on a list of huge demands that were not part of the primary list of incentive for the whole initiative to form. And then on the other side, you had people, like you said, the people who are calling them, branding them, like generalizing the whole group as anti-national elements or Khalistani elements. So I would say that on both sides there were questionable things being done, but let's get back to the primary thing of it, like whether or not this the initiative by the farmers to sort of like protest these reforms, was it valid or not? And I would love to hear if somebody has very detailed understanding of like the farmers demands and what exactly were the demands. I would love to hear that as well. So Samarth, go ahead.
I have a very cursory understanding of these farmers' protests and the larger issues that concern the farmers. I have not studied these issues in any depth at any point of time. So most of the issues that I hear, it's from my relatives and friends who are themselves engaged in agriculture. So I don't know the information that I'm getting from them, how if I extrapolate them, how valid will that be? For the entirety of the country, I'm not sure. But the sense that I get when I talk to the people around me is that people who are engaged in farming, like if they grow food crops, it's like it is like they won't be able to recover the cost sunk into it. So they will have to like invariably rely on the government to get the minimum support price. If they want to make good money out of agriculture, so they'll have to engage in production of these commercial crops that can be profitable in some seasons, but the rest of the food crops and the whether it is food grains or vegetables, if that is grown here, like in most parts of Karnataka, at least, it is like unprofitable business. So as I said, they have to invariably rely on the government for the minimum support price. And now, one provision of the proposed farm bills was that how in the food crops, they were they can so far be sold only in the agricultural markets, the government run markets, and those are like very regulated markets, like with people have to be like licensed to trade in those, and then there are like strict regulations regarding the prices. So it's a very regulated market, and the government was proposing to deregulate it and leave the market forces to determine, how much the food crops are going to be bought and sold at. I think if that scenario would have emerged, then it most probably would have led to farmers being in a situation to to sell all of the crops that they produced at a much lower price, and all of their agricultural ventures it becoming unviable quite soon. So in that case, when that case arises, when most of the small farmers or the mid-level farmers, they are unable to sustain their livelihoods, what will happen is there will be entry of this corporate sector into this agriculture business, and when they conduct all of the farming operations at a large scale, they're going to do everything at a large scale, and they're going to bring their technical know-how. So only in that reason, only in that case can the agriculture business become profitable, right? So eventually, like 5 to 10 years from now, maybe like we'll end up in a situation, if the farm laws were passed, a situation where the corporate sectors would be like dominating the agriculture sector, and then all of the small farmers, they would be basically working as agricultural laborers in the lands owned or managed by this corporate sector. And so this is the situation that they would ended up in. The vast majority of independent farmers, they would no longer be independent, but become like agricultural laborers working in this sort of factory farms. So that would not be good, I guess. You could say that there are many advantages to such a situation developing. Actually, people working in the factory farms, maybe that could be good in some cases, but there could be very many downsides also.
Right.
So so this is the perspective that I have.
Okay. Just to quickly summarize what has happened, right? In 2020, September 14, that's when the bills were brought to the parliament, and in quick succession, right? September 17 was passed in Lok Sabha, and September 20 was passed in Rajya Sabha, and And then the farmers started protesting on 24th of September 2020. And the primary, like tenets of that bill was basically that, it was designed to like bring a new way of approaching agriculture in India. It was to give the stated purposes of this bill were to empower the farmers and improve price realization. Actually, the if you look at the actual proposition, right, they were saying it that this would actually make farming more profitable and give better income to the farmers, and also it will attract private investment, and also like like unlock the agricultural potential and reduce the sort of like the middlemen, because like a lot of the times these farmers were having to deal with middlemen. So one of the tenets of the farm bills was to like reduce the middlemen so that like they can have direct access to the market and things like that. And there were a certain concerns, like for example, right, the minimum support price. If you look at the minimum support price, there are like certain problems with it from an economic perspective, in the sense that if a farmer produces like whole bunch of wheat and it does not meet the demand in the market, the government is still forced to buy these produce at that minimum support price, whether there is demand or not. Okay, so and what happens is that this will lead to like all that food going to waste because like nobody is there to consume it. So it was kind of like these farm bills were designed to sort of like produce like a market driven approach to things, so that people only produce the things that the market demanded, and to kind of bring that open market dynamics into the thing. So I hope that gives us some context. Now there's a lot of people in the queue, so let me go to Prince. Prince, go ahead.
Yeah. So first of all, regarding the farmers' protest, I was totally against the fact that it was not a civil protest. Yes, in a democracy, you have the right to protest, but that right should be civil. You can't just block up a national highway and choke the national capital out of its resources to kind of arm twist the government into making decisions favorable for you. Now, MSP is happening, but the main thing that I guess one of the previous speakers brought up, that the farmers in Karnataka are facing a loss while doing the business of farming. There's a lot of aspects to it, because if you are just relying on the Sarkari mandis or the government mandis for the trade of these food resources, then what you are doing is you are creating several mafias in the food and agriculture sector, which is really important for our food security. There is a quote unquote mandi tax, or someone will call it a Rangdari tax in the areas of UP. It is an outright mafia that is bleeding our farmers day and night. And all of us are aware that if the private sector was to come into this whole system, then private sector comes with a lot of money. I don't think anyone will counter me there, because in comparison to the public sector, private sector has immense amount of resources. But another thing that was to be taken into account was, why was only the farmers of Punjab and Haryana in those protests? Let me present you with some statistics. 75.5% of the wheat procured are from Punjab and Haryana. Are the production of the wheat same as the kind of disproportionate procurement happening? No. In production, UP is the biggest producer of wheat with 31.535%, sorry. And Punjab and Haryana are just merely 16.33 and 11.01. And if you look at it, that then government can't procure this amount of wheat, because first of all, you are procuring them at MSP with zero regulations on the quality of the products. Then the storage is also costing you a lot of resources. The wheat are rotting in those storage houses, where we are seeing that government is funding 80 crore people with free rations for the past 4 years, and the resources are just like that. We are still a wheat exporting nation, and the fact that came with these MSP wheat was we could not trade it, we could not export it because it came under WTO restrictions because they were procured by government without taking into consideration the emotions of the market. So yeah, I'll just end my case there. Yeah, Raghav. Raghav?
Yeah, some good points made there. Thanks, Prince. Yeah, Sakib, go ahead.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I quite concur with Prince, and great way of putting across the point. I think there are two different things that are there being discussed and put forward by people, and I just like to kind of break them down because these are very separate issues. One is the issue of having farm bills and having an open market vis-a-vis our agricultural sector itself is concerned. And the second is the implementation process in which how is this reform brought about? Do you take all the stakeholders on board? Are you able to drive consensus and give enough assurances that there would not be any severe disruption? So the latter point, I don't think I want to comment on it right away at this point. But on the former point, I think it goes to say at the heart of the problem is do we trust the market more than the government, or do we trust the government more than the market? Because effectively the MSP idea goes back a few decades, and when it was first introduced, it was more of a protection measure. As I understand it, it was introduced as a temporary protection measure, but populist political policies have kept it in play, and then it had kept getting extended, which effectively meant that our farmers have gotten used to this crutch of MSP. Versus in a market-driven environment, you would have had these very farmers of Punjab and Haryana compete with more high-yield crops on their farmlands, and be open to selling them into into an open market. Now, there was one point made which was around factory farming and whether these farmers becomes employees of certain places or people. I think that again, that argument comes from a very inherent distrust of the market itself. It kind of comes with an idea of saying that the capitalists will never have the interests of the populace at large at heart, and while giving all of the control to the government seems to be the best place, where we have continuously repeatedly seen that these markets that are set up by government are not the most efficient. We've seen a lot of wastages in it. Our agricultural sector has not really even industrialized or developed as much as some of the other more developed nations. We lack a lot of cold storage facilities to even store the produce. So a lot of investment also lacks because of this stringent control that the government has over the sector. So broadly, this is a long due reform that was to be brought about. And one last thing, agriculture, while it is a state subject, these were some national level reforms that had to be passed from the central government, as I understand it, because the Sarkari Mandi structure, while some states in the south specifically have had they weren't very concerned with the bill as well, because they have their own internal laws which have empowered the farmers more. But still, I think on an overall basis, on a national level, as I understand it, these laws are the need of the hour to really upgrade our agricultural sector. So I think that's where I stand on the implementation of the laws.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sakib. That was some really good points. HP, go ahead.
I would actually go with what Sakib said, but let me, because if we just go with MSP, that's not the only demand farmers are having this time. If you go by details, they want pension, they want fixed wages, they want not only MSP, they want profitability guarantee as well. And they want MS Swami Nathan committee as well. And if you go by details, they want justice for Lakhimpur Kheri incident as well. And it's a bunch of things out there. But keeping in view, our country is dependent upon farmers. Our GDP is still, after all this, like being not that technical, being not that industrious and everything, it's contributing 20% to the GDP and employing more than 50% of the population. So everybody is not living in urban India. We still are in rural India, and half of our population is earning because of it. So we cannot say only farmers. Farmers are not just a bunch of, let's say, IT guys, or a bunch of civil engineers, or a bunch of doctors. It's us, one among two of us. And if, let's say, there's surplus wheat, there are many other food items getting destroyed in godowns of government. That's the government's. Why do we elect a government? We elect a government to run the system perfectly. There shouldn't that all should be addressed by the government. That should not be addressed by the farmer, who is an uneducated, mostly 10th fail, or let's say comes from a lower section of society, who does not have that much amount of avenues, is not an MBA, who knows what to do. They just feel whatever is cheaper, whatever seats they get on subsidy, and whatever season they have, and whatever they can do with that, and they invest whole blood and money and sweat in it. Sometimes they are rich farmers also, who employ 100 acres and employ laborers to do the stuff. But I'm generally talking about the procedure is not that easy. So somewhere, if they want 10,000 rupees a month as a pension after 60 years of age, when they cannot uh, do the labor work, it's not easy. For I don't think even a 30-year or 40-year-old normal city living person can do that much amount of labor. So after 60 years, if that person has done the same thing for rest of his life, and now let's say he's not able to do anything, otherwise also government is providing 2,000, 2,000, 4,000, 4,000 rupees every month, or every second month, alternative month, to general public. They can look after farmers as well. And if their participation is high in democracy, if their participation is high electorally, they should not be alienated. Maybe there are some demands. There should be a negotiation. If 10,000 is bigger amount, you're already providing 4,000 rupees, 1,000 more here, 1,000 less here, but getting them on the same platform is important. I started with the same point earlier also, with the situation of Amrit Pal Singh, who won Khandur Sahib with double margin. A person who hangs the portrait of Bindrawala in the background and then attacks the whole police station and takes his friend out and creates that anti-India campaign and goes full on Khalistani, and is currently booked under NSA and other terrorism charges, is winning by a margin, double margin of whatever AAP guy got, some quarter to 2 lakh votes, Congress guy got some 2 lakh votes, and this guy single-handedly took 4 lakh votes. Is a concern. And these things keep happening if you don't adjust them in the mainstream. If you just, I'm not saying trivialize it, if you just segregate them and give, and like this prince said, he was not for the protest because they blocked the whole, choked up the highway. Everything in that perspective is right. But then again, you should also understand, are these people heard? Unless and until they make that kind of chaos, there's no, I have seen farmers coming naked from Tamil Nadu to Delhi, women stripping there, eating their own faces, drinking the pee there in front of PM house. Nobody did anything. The government had brute majority. They didn't need to. And maybe that is what stretched and pushed these people. Earlier, it wasn't this difficult for them to get heard. Now it might be very difficult because of the confidence government had. So I think, taking all that in perspective, we should realize these people are not that educated, they're not that much resourceful. They see profitability from a neighbor who is sowing the same crop, they go in the same direction. So if we can export wheat, if we can do other things, and if other countries can do it in such bulk, our government should also take initiatives where we don't get, like Saqib said, we should have more cold storages and other these avenues where we don't lose money, we don't lose our crops. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, HP. So actually, I want to put a few things in perspective here. So first of all, for example, let's say that the government went ahead and then created these cold storages, and these things are there obviously there is an expenditure to all this. And when you think about the fact that if the government is spending so much money into securing the food grains that are not even off the market demand, let's say, so let's say the farmer on his own whim and accord, he chooses to produce these things without any consideration for the market demand, and then the government is happily taking that at a minimum support price, but also at a profitability price. So the market has the farmer has no concern about the market. He does not have to look at the market demand and do something. He just do whatever is convenient for him. And if the government is on top of that, it's going and spending all the infrastructure on cold storage and everything to do this. You have to look at the strain on the economy on all of this, because we are the taxpayers. This is not like a like infinite resources that anybody, as long as their things are valid and just, you can just give them whatever they want. It's also about like the economic the strains around all of this. So we have to consider the fact that that is why the initial market, the farm bills were like trying to create a loop. They're trying to create the relationship between the production and the demand, so that things will happen in a balanced way. And yes, I agree that the government's duty is to secure the produce and prevent those grain shortage and all that. That is like the efficiency of the process. But if you even like meeting demands of the MSP and profitability and all of those things, that is going to create an economic strain, which we have to understand, that we have to also it is a fact that a large majority of the people of the agricultural sector do not pay the tax as well. So where is all this money going to come from? So that is something that I wanted to address. But there are a lot of people waiting in the queue. So Saju, go ahead.
So I will. So Raghav, this subject is something which requires a bit of research. I think you had put up a research document somewhere. I'm sorry, I have not read it. I would like to read it and speak again. I'm in the process of going through it, researching it online right now as we speak. But a very interesting topic once again, Raghav. Kudos to the choice of topic. I would like to place some very quick points. Okay. Recently, there was an exam conducted, and for the students of all people doing medical and engineering entrances all over the government colleges in India, and the name of the exam was NEET. And there was a lot of hue and cry over the exams conducted in NEET, and there is a lot of protests happening about it, and there is a kind of online movement happening with very renowned people from the pedagogy industry coming and speaking about NEET. Now, nobody is in this whole process. Nobody is doing any name calling for those students. Nobody is saying that they are terrorists, or nobody is saying that they are lethargic and they are always going for government positions. Why there are so many unemployed students in the country. Nobody uses those words. So that is point to be noted, and I don't know why. Okay. The second thing is, any form of protest takes a very ugly form when the dialogue doesn't happen. The same thing occurred in farmers' protest. The farmers' protest started in around March, and there was long discussions happening within the farming community to requesting the government to talk to them, but nobody turned up. Time and again, they had sent requests for government to start negotiations, and nobody turned up. And that's when the farmers hit the streets. And guess what happened after they hit the streets? Suddenly they were called as terrorists, right? And my final point, Raghav, is that if anybody has seen the farm mills being discussed in the parliament, then they would have noticed something horrifying, which is after the discussions, a vote is called for, right? And there were requests from a very peaceful request from the opposition asking for a measurement of who voted in what way. And it was clearly seen that, and many parliamentarians protested after the farm bills were passed, saying that the voice vote was conducted on the farm bills, and there were many dissenting voices which were never heard, and the majority of the people who were dissenting were never heard. So these are the 3 points which I wanted to make. Other than that, I will go through your research. Okay, Raghav. I don't know if you have posted it, but let me go through it.
Yes, I posted in the WhatsApp group. Anyway, so see, the thing is, before you joined, I think you joined a little bit later, but we HP did address this concern of like people being called terrorists because they're doing this farm protest. But I mean, obviously there are like issues on both sides of the whole thing. There are even in the protest there were some violent acts committed, and then there were also people who are all like adding a list of demands that are completely unrelated to the initial like protests that started off. So they basically kind of like joined the bandwagon and started demanding other things. Like for example, there were some demands about the forgiveness of the loans and then these other things, and like pensions. Again,
no, I have the ready list of demands. There was a demand to arrest the person who was who murdered the 700 how many farmers, 8 or 10 farmers who were protesting, and he got a jeep and ran over them with the jeep, right? That to arrest that person. You know what the government did? The government, instead of arresting him, instead of conducting a trial on him, they let him go scot-free, right? I mean, how do you even call that? I mean, who's the real terrorist here?
Yeah, I don't know about the specifics of this particular incident, but obviously
there was this guy called Akhilesh Teni or somebody, or Ashish Teni or somebody, who was a minister. Union minister. His son took a jeep and he simply ran over the farmers somewhere in Uttar Pradesh who were walking along the road protesting against the farm laws. He just simply ran over them. Right.
This is a completely different issue in terms of the law enforcement. I mean, obviously
that is one of the demands. One of the demands of the farmer. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Anyway, like the other thing is that the way this was done, right? It was kind of like holding the government at ransom. That unless you do this, we are going to do the chokehold on the whole thing. And I do understand the sentiment that unless you do that, they're not going to be heard. So obviously that is the only thing that is left. So this is a complex issue, and I mean, again, there was like issues on both sides of the whole thing, but I would also like try to get the attention back to the central issue here, which was the essential tenets of the Farm Bill which were being opposed. In here, right? Like there is I think HP brought up the point that these people are uneducated; they don't know these things. And in my perception, I'm acting as a moderator, but I do want to like also share my own personal perceptions on this. Is that I feel like they were so familiar with things that they're going on that they were not able to envision the potential of like an opening up of the market. Because like I personally feel that it would have been much better for the economy and for their own good if they were open to this like opening up of the market. They could have made a lot more money. They could be doing a lot more things to their own benefit if they allowed to pass those things. But again, I would love to hear disagreements on that too. But thanks, Saju. Sakib, go ahead.
Yeah, so just I think I wanted to reply to what the way HP was putting forward the points that they were quite well put, but I kind of fundamentally disagree with some of it, and then agree with the part in which there was about the right to protest. I think on the protest front, While I don't want to get into much depth on it, I just feel like that was the way to make your voice heard, because of the way the government also handled the implementation of the bill with an iron fist. You don't discuss it in parliament, you don't bring the stakeholders on board, you don't drive consensus, and you just steamrolled it, thinking that the COVID crisis will effectively wash over and give you the authoritarian diktat to just dispel all protest as well. So as far as protest is concerned, and when 1 million people are coming together to protest something, there will be incidents, far and few by few radical elements. I don't think we need to focus on that to just get to the sentiment of the protest. But as far as the other point was concerned, which HP was trying to make, I think he's coming from a very moral standpoint, in which he's saying that more than 50%, I think the last time I checked, the statistic was 70-75% of India is employed in agriculture, and how can we not give them 10,000 rupees? And this is like a moral imperative on us to support them. While it sounds a very heartening argument, I think the reality of the fact is India is a poor country. While we have a lot of aspirations that our government should do this and do that, we are a GDP per capita of $2,000, which is extremely low. And unless and until we kind of really up our game and increase it to by at least an order of magnitude, we're not going anywhere. And in order to do that, we need to upgrade our sectors and systems. Now, the following point was said that, which was our farmers are illiterate, and how do we expect them to do that? I think that is extremely harsh opinion of and giving way too much credit to MBAs. I am an MBA myself. I don't consider literacy has got anything to do with business sense. If that were so, I think traders and merchants in erstwhile British India, or even beforehand, none of them would have been able to do any trades. Or the way we see the reasons for prosperity of Gujarat today, for example, is it from trader communities from 200-300 years ago. None of them were going to school and learning math. Business is something which is intelligence is not kind of measured in what kind of exams you've passed in your life. Intelligence is measured by how well are you able to deal with things, and how well are you able to react, and your intuitive sense about business and making profits is something that can be learned much more easily than people typically give people credit for. And I think the last point around this entire setup is we also need to focus on that the fact remains that the protest was pretty concentrated, and this is a national level bill. So if the protest is happening only from Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh farmers, as I understand it, and the rest of the India is not really kind of contributing it, we have to kind of go and look at specific areas on why is it that only these are the states which are really hampering. And I think the statistics were brought up earlier on the wheat farming and how these farmers are unwilling to upgrade their farmlands from wheat or rice and paddy into some other crops. By the way, a fun statistic that I really recently came across is they're planting rice in Punjab, and it requires roughly around 40% more water because the rainfall patterns there, and that's being done purely because of MSP. If not for MSP, they would be doing something else other than rice plantation. Now, these are things that have been ingrained over generations into these farmers, and so you need to give them a plan how they can kind of really transition, and that is where the role of the government comes in. It's never going to be in continuous assurances that we'll continue to buy your crop at a fixed price irrespective of come what may. And I think that's broadly my points on this.
Thanks a lot, Saqib. I think you did a really good job of summarizing some of the criticism against it. And I also want to add a quick point that there was I think a discussion regarding like how we should implement we should refrain from going ahead with the farm bills only for Punjab and Haryana, because that was where the primary criticism or opposition to the farm bills were coming from. There was also this discussion about the state level implementation, but I don't know what happened to it. But in my opinion, it would have been the best outcome if you were to let only Punjab and Haryana refrain from implementing that, but the rest of the country could have gone ahead, and then you would have allowed for a demonstration of what would happen if these farm bills went ahead. And if it was positive, then you could Punjab and Haryana could also have transitioned back. So I'm not really sure what happened there, but yeah, Prince, go ahead.
Yeah. So regarding the MSP, first of all, Saqib very well said. Then MSP was rightly a precautionary measure, and asking for an eternal continuation of MSP is like asking for license Raj, where the whole of nation is living under oligarchy, where couple of people are holding up the control of the entire nation. Now, MSP is only restricted to the agricultural products. What has the dairy people done wrong? And rightly said earlier by Raghav, let us demonstrate what non-inclusion of MSP can do. Non-inclusion of MSP can give you Amul and Nandi, great companies which were built by self-help groups of, I guess, Gujarat or Rajasthan, and they are doing immense amount of trade and are very profitable as well. Now, regarding the political sphere, yes, there is a huge undercurrent of grief within the Sikhs of Punjab because the son of the guy who killed Indira Gandhi claims that his father did so, wins the election. So is the case of Amrit Pal. So we need to look into why that sense of grief is there and if that grief is kind of related to the whole farmers protest bill. Now, regarding the pensions that the farmers are asking, the government are trying to cut down on pensions in every way possible because they are implementing new pension scheme. They are including schemes like Agniveer to kind of restrict the amount of pensions that they have to give. This itself shows that the government currently is not in a position to kind of spend that much amount, as we need to do some capital investment as well because we are just a developing country, so that is required. So that's why the 10,000 rupee a month is kind of going out of the line because the resources currently the finances really don't match about it. Talking of finances, someone rightly said that it is government's duty that we should store it and build more cold storages for the whole wheat thing. But keeping the moral part aside, looking just into the finances and from the government's perspective, what to do with the wheat once they are procured? We can't trade it, we can't export it. The cost that we incur in buying those and kind of storing them is another thing. But it also comes at an expense of possible restrictions from the World Trade Organization, which could eventually lead into further decline in our trade and exports. Now, the point of anti-national, yes, there were no claims that these farmers are anti-national. They are likely Indian as we are, but the claims came when they were threatening to kill our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And no matter you love him or hate him, he is our Prime Minister. Threatening to kill our PM is really wrong. The incident that happened in Red Fort, those things kind of accumulated. That's why this time government had to take strict actions to make sure that situations like that don't happen. Now, one of the claims that I completely support is the Lakhimpur Kheri case. Sorry. Now, I guess Saju said it, but SIT did file a 5,000 pages charge sheet with the name of all the accused, even the son of the MP or MLA that was considered to be the one of the accusers. And now it's under the judiciary. Judiciary goes at its own pace. No one can really control it. Now, regarding the protest part, yes, there was a lot of protest, and people rightly said so that sometimes a little bit of arm twisting is needed to get heard. But what did the farmers of Haryana did wrong? Why were their farms destroyed and decremented? They were kind of restricted and choked off oxygen. I don't think many people will know here that there was another restriction past the protest of these 3 farm bills, where they were kind of restricting the resources of these farmers, showing agitation that you came here and you kind of destroyed our whole trade because those people used to do a lot of trade with Delhi that was kind of restricted due to those things. So I guess we need to look at the other side as well, that what loss did that incur to the whole of nation and our economy? Yeah, Raghav.
Okay, thanks a lot, Prince. I see a lot of hands. Yeah, HP, go ahead, please.
See, I'm not saying from business point of view. Many farmers are educated, many farmers are very well read, and many farmers are doing quite good. But then again, if you just go to any village and find a farmer and see normal farmer, an acre farmer, half an acre farmers are also there. Everybody does not own this big chunk of land. Okay, those people are really poor. And moral aspect is not. I'm not covering it from moral aspect. I'm just covering it from the aspect government started initiated everything. So if you go as for the current government promises, they promise them their wages will double. They promise them better these lives. They promise them greener gardens. Okay, so if you promise something like that, and then again when people come and protest and beg to meet you, and you don't give a million people one meeting, you don't directly talk to them, you don't talk to their leaders also, you do these back channel talkings, and then you create this strong, that powerful authoritarian vibe among people, and then you get associated with Big Basket, Adani, then this Petanjali was also in there, and they go downs and farm these acquiring of places, and these cold storages come in news, and then you start understanding, oh, this is something that can be, sometimes it can also be a perception that can guide you or misguide you. So government didn't open up and clear that air, it's not, if we remove MSP, you won't be under the control of these billion-dollar companies, be it Adani or be it Patanjali or Big Basket. So you won't be compelled to sell to them. And then again, if a big chunk of population of a state, be it Haryana, be it Punjab, is into farming, and they are doing good or bad, that's a different part. They can demand anything from their government. They are the citizens of the state. Let's say it does not apply to the broader spectrum. It could be, like Raghav said, concentrated in the laws or policies. All that matter should have been taken up for those few states. Rest of India, it should have been implemented. I think that could also be a better solution to this. But then again, the moral point where you say you just support them, you just take them, it's not like that. You promise them double wages, you promise them increase this safeties and securities, and you see the manifestos also, you see the open these Yalgas in their rallies also, and then you don't give them a meeting, and then you start treating them as if, like past speaker said, okay, many of them are likely Indian citizens. What is likely Indian citizen? How can you think somebody is likely an Indian citizen? Everybody who is an Indian citizen, everybody who is born here, who has Aadhaar card, or normally, you cannot question his patriotism. You cannot. He has his own demands. And then again, if these people want a certain law, maybe it's not good for them, maybe it's bad for them. But who am I to decide for them? If a big chunk of whole group of people from whole state is saying we don't want it, so how can I, sitting in some other state, saying you take it, it's good for you? He wants to kill himself or she wants to commit a suicide. That is their take, and that is acceptable in democracy. If a majority, that's how governments are formed. If a loud prime minister is prime minister with 240 seats, or before also, he has always got 30%, 34% of this support from people, from voters, and he is the prime minister of remaining 70% people as well. He's not prime minister for those 30% people. So majority works here. So the majority of people want a certain law to be passed, want a certain accommodation, and they have the numbers. They can get extremists to parliament, they can break down governments, they can destroy Akali Dal, they have that much amount of number. So their demand should be respected as far as we are a democracy. In those terms, I'm saying. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rashmi. And I think we need to have like a separate session talking about the process that the government employs. Like, because a lot of these concerns, we are learning about all of this, like general public. I could say that all of us here every one of us here has admitted that they don't know the specifics of the farm bills or that they don't know the specifics of demand. And I think that's true for me as well. I'm just consuming the news or what I see on YouTube or TV and read the popular snippets that come here and there. And I've seen a couple of in-depth analysis videos as well on YouTube. But I feel like the government has to do a better job of like educating the larger population about some of the things that they're trying to do and do it in such a way that there is no misunderstanding, because there are also been issues raised about like whether the farmers actually truly understand these things, which again is refuted by the people who say that farmers are not stupid. So I feel like there is a fundamental communication gap that's going on. Again, that is also adding fuel to this whole like conflict. And I think we should have a separate discussion about the way the government handles these communications. And yeah, but thanks HP for that. Saju, go ahead.
I mean, brilliantly put by HP. See, the primary intent of the farm laws, as drafted by the government of India, against which the protest happened, is actually still not clear. What are they trying to do? Is it so the farm laws has got three parts, right? Farmers Produce, Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act, and the Farmers Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act, which is the first one is for I think primarily allowing electronic trade and commerce, and the second one is allowing farmers to get into contracts with private parties, interested parties. And the third one is to remove cereals, pulses, potato, things like that away from the Essential Commodities Protection Act. So, but these three are the combined farm laws. Now, the intent of these farm laws is still not clear actually to many people, because some arguments were that I think one of the popular argument was that after these laws anybody can buy any produce from anywhere, but that was the case earlier as well. Farmers would give it to some kind of a trader who has got regular arrangements with, and even if there is someone else offering to buy at a higher cost, the farmers would still go with the trader, even if it's lower cost, because he knows that next year he will come around with and purchase his produce. The primary challenge of the farmer is actually the same as that of an entrepreneur in India, right? If you are sowing a wheat crop or a paddy crop, it takes around, I believe, around 4 or 5 months for the crop to mature. And once it is matured, it has to be sold within a certain time frame. Otherwise, it will spoil. So you are actually asking the farmer to do a prediction of the market 6 months into the future, right? And that is a very difficult proposition, and that is what has to be solved, and which I think Prince or HP somebody pointed out, which Amul has solved. Right? And guess where is Amul? Amul is right in the heart of, situated right in the heart of Gujarat, with a history of over 30 years. And what I am wondering is that how did this government, which originated from Gujarat, and where the solution for this whole thing is lying, completely ignored it? Right? How can they be so insensible in this matter? Right? There is a example right in their backyard of how to solve it, right? So that is something very strange to me. Like this whole thing reeks of something else. I don't know. I know for sure that the people in the government are very smart, but I don't think they can make such a silly mistake, right? And I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together here, saying that the intention was something entirely different, and I don't know what it is. Thanks.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, Samat, go ahead.
Right. I think the previous speaker, he brought an excellent point about how the common farmer, like if he is left to his own devices, then there is actually no way for him to predict what the market situation will be in the upcoming months, and for him to grow his produce accordingly. So, like, if this, so basically, if he's left to his own device, it will be a thoroughly losing situation for him. And when such a situation arises, uh, for this whole farming activity to become profitable in the long run, it will just eliminate the participation of small and mid-level farmers. And the people who are able to the anticipate which way the market will be in the future, and plan accordingly, and do all of this complex planning. It won't be the small farmer or the mid-level farmer. It will only be like the corporate sector with dedicated teams of people who have specializations, and who are like day in day out working about these particular things. Uh, uh, so I think the direction these formulas it will take is, if these formulas were implemented, it would have eventually resulted in that kind of a situation where uh, the common farmer, it will be just totally economically unviable for him to conduct his operation as an independent farmer, and eventually he would become like an agricultural laborer under the big corporations. That's one point. And the second thing is like um, I think these days the free market concept that has been glorified, and it has been given too much credit, credit that it is not so deserving. Because if you see the actual results of uh, the markets being opened up and the competition being allowed, it is like it's not everybody in the society that has benefited from them. Uh, it is only like a section of the society that has been benefited from it. Uh, uh, so that is the case, and also we are, you know, not me, but many of the speakers here, they were all for the government being just out of, of this process of fixing prices and imposing barriers for trade and competition. But then that is not actually the reality we live in. The government, uh, very it imposes, for example, very strict conditions on what is being exported from our country and what is being imported from other countries to our country. So if one is like a principled, a free market type of person, he should be opposed to even that one, of the government imposing tariffs and like a certain important export quotas, you know. But actually, the Indian government doesn't do that. So the Indian government, for example, it limits the amount of steel, I think, that can be imported from China to here, or or in some years it completely bans the uh, imports of certain kind of steel from China, because we know that uh, if there is if it completely adheres to the principles of free market and allows all kinds of free trade, then the domestic steel industry, it would be completely devastated, and we would feel so many negative consequences because of such a move. So I'm saying like we already live in a country where there are strict impositions put upon the kind of free trade or the kind of capitalism that can be engaged in. So I do not see like that the government providing the minimum support price is any deviation from the already existing practices. And all of these free market practices, if they are taken to the logical conclusion, what will happen is it's just a small minority of people in India will benefit from it, and the vast majority will be devastated by it. And that is why sensibly the Indian government still it it imposes many trade restrictions, and it has like very limited free trade agreements, and it has walked out of many WTO agreements in the past, and and these are all good things, in my opinion, imposing certain kinds of restrictions on
Okay.
trade and the kind of competition. Yeah.
Okay, Samad, thank you. I just want to address one particular point regarding for example, let's say that how do the farmers even like predict the market conditions 6 months before they do the thing? But I don't think that the market fluctuation is so sharp year on year. Like it's not like a stock market. I think there's a relative stability with that. But even if that is the case, that you have like rapid fluctuations happening, then there will be certain analytics to help out the farmers. It's not like only um, the big corporations are going to be able to predict the things and match accordingly. There will definitely be some kind of a culture around this as well. So I don't know like how strong of an argument it is that because the markets are inequipped to handle that kind of like a game, that they would basically lose out and they will become the slaves of corporates. I think it would just basically change the dynamics of the game. And if it's done in a gradual enough fashion, then it would actually, the farmers can anticipate and prepare for that kind of a dynamic, and it would basically definitely give them the opportunity to become a part of the larger players if they did it right. So that's my personal opinion on this. But yeah, Prince, go ahead.
Yeah. So regarding the first part, the demand part. So who am I to tell them that what is the right demand and what is not? Government is there now. That is why government is made, so that they can decide. Sometimes the people are not able to see at the macro picture what is great for them. So that's why we have made the government. Now, if the point of majority is to come, then majority of the nation did support farm bills, except for Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP. But HP rightly said that if they want to commit suicide, then who are we to stop them? Government is there to stop them. If you are to kind of use euthanasia in our nation, then you need permission from president, I assume. Now, what will be the uses of these bills? I personally believe that it will lead to stratification of farming, where small farmers can go to the MSP people, the medium farmers can go to the local traders that they usually contact, and the large farmers can do contractual selling through MSPs. I don't think huge MSPs are going to come and take a 1 hectare of land and make someone a kind of contractual labor. MSPs are always going to deal with the large farmers and with thousands of acres of lands. But one of the thing was that I want to clear, MSP was not to stop after the inclusion of the three farm bills. It was the contractual farming that was kind of introduced there, where pre-contracts could be signed for selling the products that whatever products the company needs. Now, I guess Saju pointed out the point of steel import, where to stop dumping of Chinese steel, Indian markets have put some restrictions. then it is not just we as a protectionary state. Even the highest of capitalist market use anti-dumping laws to kind of restrict a sudden decline in the prices and complete assimilation of their local industries into the foreign ones. Now, someone rightly said that how are the farmers going to predict 6 months before the produce that what is the kind of requirements of the market? First of all, they are going to predict it based on the 30 years or something of experience that they have in farming. Additionally, this I can do as well if farmers may seem it necessary. There are 140 crore people in India. They eat wheat. It's not gonna happen that next year we'll have 10 crore people, 130 crore people are gonna just whoosh out into thin air. With some minor fluctuations, I guess predicting the market is well done, well in the control of the farmers. And it is not just done by the farmers, it is done by all the entrepreneurial people in the whole of the universe. Yeah, Raghu.
One thing, right? Like you can predict the demand, but you can't predict the supply. Suddenly, let's say that next year that there's a Reliance is coming into wheat business and they're flooding the market with like a large proportion of the wheat at much lower prices. Your wheat is going to be unsold. Maybe that is one concern I would say, that is where like minimum support price does kind of like result in the government taking the ownership of the loss that the farmers will go through in a competitive market. But yeah, I think we have to like eventually gradually shift to like a more free market society where these kind of like safety nets are deprioritized and it is more made into like a profitable business, right? But yeah, it is a complex topic in that regard. You can't like easily predict just the demand and then like say that you can go ahead with this initiative, because you have to also be able to predict the supply. But yeah, HP, go ahead.
If I may, sorry,
Yeah,
if I may
go ahead,
add,
please. Yeah.
Yeah, so we are a wheat surplus nation, but at the same time, we are importing pulses. So we can see what kind of issues the MSPs can bring, where people are, creating enormous amount of wheat, where we are giving away free wheat to about 80 crore people, and there is no dent in our food supply and food security. But at the same time, we have to import pulses. So I guess kind of bringing in a free and open market can cater to that issue. Yeah, sorry, HP, sorry. Raghu.
Yeah, thanks, Prince. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, HP, go ahead.
Yeah. I am not contradicting anybody. Everybody's right in their own space. Even in the last argument, you said 80 crore people get this free wheat every month. But then again, you just realize now what sort of a country we have where we are giving free food to 80 crore people. We are not, like Saqib said, MBA is not somebody who has that business niche. It is inside you. And if you are a businessman and you don't need education for that. Somewhat of that is right. But majority of it says if you're not educated, if you can't, let's say, use a smartphone, if you can't, let's say, get a tie-up with Amazon and IndiaMart, and if you're not that much read, which is certainly the situation with these people, they might be smart, street smart. You can be an IITN or you can be an IIM Ahmedabad, let's say, a graduate or postgraduate, and you cannot deal with these people on a very normal. If you just go buy a bag of, let's say, rice or any other vegetable, they can defraud you easily and they can sell you anything. So they are very smart that way, okay? But they're not smart in all these putting up things as far as the current competition and as far as the technology and other parts are there. They are starting behind the line, way behind the line, and it's not that easy. And second thing is, all the entrepreneurs or anybody who is into stocks or who is making things, many of them are into perishable items. But still, if you're into some cosmetic business or any other business, it has a validity or age of expiry for 6 to 36 months. You need to understand a value of crop. If it is fresh, 1 day, 2 day old. I'll just give you example of normal. Everybody would have seen apples and eaten apples. So if an apple farmer is making growing apples, and these apples are packed in those 20 kg big boxes, which they call peti. So the price of that peti, if it is very fresh, can go to 2,000 or 2,500 rupees. It's approximately 20 kilo peti in a mandi, normal government mandi, and you can see people buying it at 2,000, 2,500 also. But if you go with the last peti of the stock, say if it has got 1,000 boxes of these apples, which is a good 10, 20, 15 lakh rupee investment. So if you see them selling the last box, it won't go for 300 rupees also, 400, because the apple, lot of them would be rotten or have small, even a little bit of a mark on it, depreciates the price considerably. So it is easier for a stock market businessman to sell everything. But if you are selling something, and especially if you come from a lower income group who is getting free ration of in those 80 crore people, majority of food would be farmers, and those people making 10,000, 15,000 rupees, and then again the margins on these things are not that huge. They're not making crores or minting money out of it. They're going for minimum support price, not maximum support price. So if government can change the policy and push in the direction where you think pulses and other things have more value, that's very easily. Government did it before also. There was a white revolution, there was a green revolution, there was an information technology revolution. So government has that capacity to push. But government is not the decision maker, is not the ruler. We're not living in a dictatorship where a government tells you, okay, this you do, you don't do that. You provide the policy if people accept it. And then again, rest of India can be a different story. But then again, UP, Haryana, Punjab is not a small amount. It's not a negligible amount of people that you said, but just these 30 crore people are not with it. 30 crore in itself is equivalent to United States of America's population. Okay, so that is not a small population that you can say, okay, just these people. It is not just these people, it's a good chunk. That's a big amount, a big number of 30 crore people means something. Let's say even Haryana and Punjab only. Keep UP aside. Let's not take everybody also. You're saying completely Haryana and Punjab. That is also 6 crore people. Even if it is 1 crore people, 1 crore people is a big number of people who demand to be respected and treated properly in a democracy where they have some demands. And I think they're very smart to know what is good for them, what is not. They cannot be that stupid. They're doing wheat. If we need pulses, we need other items, government can create a policy in that direction and automatically drive them to those sides. But then again, thinking that these people are very smart, they are on par, they can decide, they can see what is going to happen in the next 6 months. They have that wisdom of things. They have been seeing things, but then again, they're not on the same par like a normal trader, entrepreneur, or a businessman. These are normal people living in villages who believe in spirituality, who believe somebody, किसी के अंदर आत्मा आ गई है, किसी के अंदर देवी आ गई है. All these things happen in these places. If a single person says इसमें आज ज़्यादा फायदा है, इसमें ये है, they all run in the same direction. So collective wisdom is a different situation. They need that support from the government, where if you want to drive them out of that, if you want to go into something that is good for imports or exports, so that is the policy government has to change. They can drive them in that direction. The government has already done that in white revolution and green revolution and IT revolution. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, HP. Yeah, Sajid, go ahead.
I think HP actually summarized what I wanted to say very nicely. I feel I do feel there is a disconnect. These 3 laws that has been brought in, I really am not able to make head or tails of what they are actually trying to do or trying to solve or unblock or whatever you call it, right? What was the problem before, and what do these 3 laws try to achieve that solves the before problems? The MSP by itself is not a big issue. The cost of doing an experiment with MSP for a 5-year period is like very minute, right? And government procuring produce at MSP levels is something that they can do if they can bring efficiency into their storage and distribution. That is, I'm talking about the government's own storage and distribution. Remember, this year, starting last year around October, November, government had to actually impose a ban on farmers exporting grain. That is to meet our internal demands, which means that we were falling short, right? And that is the actual real situation. The idealism and the talk about free market economics and all that you can do if there is a lopsided problem to solve, that is either demand is too less or supply is too high, and there is surplus everywhere, and that's what we are trying to solve. So it is really not very clear as to what was the actual intent of the government in bringing these laws, and that is where I think there is a failure in communication from the government's part to the various stakeholders. And I believe that even the amount of discussion we all are having on this call, I don't think anybody in the government has done that level of discussions. That's what I believe. Looking at all the discussions that are happening everywhere else. Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, guys, like we usually take it to 12:30 and then we have an open discussion. I think we can start having the open discussion now. Anybody who has anything to say, please go ahead and you can unmute yourself and start talking. And I know that there have been a bunch of people who have not really had any chance to say anything, like Rajeshri and I think Harshapriya and Batman, Akash. If you guys have something to say as well, please feel free to speak.
Just adding to what I guess Saju said, the government did have at least 40 to 50, what I know, rounds of talks with the farmers during the first phase of farmers' protest. And of course, the government has a different style to talk to things. They prefer closed door meetings and they like talking with through the back channel. So I guess that is just the style of this government.
I mean, which I never understood. Why this is not a secret. You're not something that you're discussing in secret with anyone, right? And the farmers organizations are made of people who are from Punjab and Haryana, and they are farmers, right? I don't know what they were negotiating on or whatever you call it. It is not as if they are something like anybody has got anything to lose in these negotiations. And that part I never understood. Nobody has anything to lose here.
I mean, it is just about the way the things have been. Like, the government also can't seem too weak because if there is a precedent set that by arm twisting the government, you can kind of get any laws retracted or removed from the whole thing, then this sets a very bad example. And of course, there are things to use. The 3 laws, I'm sure, might have come with a lot of consultation and a lot of discussions within the cabinet and the ministries. Yes,
Yeah, but then the government belongs to the farmers, right? The farmers are the actual owners of the government. The farmers, including the citizens of this nation. So there is no. Why do you need to arm twist your own servant?
But
It is
Saju, what
not
do you mean
like,
by government? Like farmers own the government. Like I would say that farmers are a constituent of the citizens who collectively own the government. They cannot do something that ultimately harms the other citizens. Like I don't want to pay like so much tax to meet the demands of these farmers. I want them to also like be like me. I want them to pay taxes. I want them to follow market demands. If I'm running a business, I have to follow all these rules. Why should the farmers be excluded from all that, considerations?
That goes.
That is
Mhm.
the perspective that we should talk on, actually. And that's the perspective I would say is behind all this protests that are happening. There is a set of people in India who strongly believe that farmers are having a free run. Um, the farmers don't deserve what they are getting. They are unknowledgeable. They don't go to schools. They don't study. They don't know what to grow on their fields. You'll be surprised if you talk to a few farmers. I talked to a few
No,
farmers.
I think that is difference of like that is not the point I'm making. I'm saying that there are like all these subsidies and things like this, and also like farmers don't really pay taxes. This is a known fact. I'm saying that why the rules different. I'm not saying that they're stupid people or something like that, but I'm just saying that we have to bring the same uniform like laws and like responsibilities as a citizen.
Okay, so I don't know if you watched this movie called Jawan, and that's a very simple way to debunk that myth that farmers don't pay taxes, that farmers get free petrol, right? The interest that they have to pay on their tractors that they get is much higher than somebody who's buying a Mercedes car.
No, but Raghav is right in this perspective. Farmers don't pay taxes in India. Maybe subsidies
No,
are
but why do you say so? Because do you pay taxes? You and I pay taxes, right? On the income earned.
The slab you are in, you pay. But if you're a farmer, say if you earn more than 20 lakh rupees, 30 lakh rupees a year, you pay 30% of the income. So if you're earning 30 lakh rupees, directly 10 lakh of it goes to the government. But if the farmer earns 30 lakh rupees, 10% of it or 30% of it and nothing goes to government, it's non taxable income. And that is a valid point. But then again, how many people are earning 30 lakh rupees or 10 lakh, or how many people have that much amount of safety bracket is also you need to know now. So a farmer is taking a loan of 1 lakh rupees or 2 lakh rupees and then committing a suicide for not paying that 2 lakh rupees or 3 lakh rupees. So you can understand his standard. So majority, 90% of them do not fit in any tax slab otherwise also. Just a bunch of big from Punjab.
Yeah, but I think the spectrum you have to see. There are people who earn a crore rupees a day and don't pay taxes. Zero taxes.
If you earn a crore rupee, you cannot run away from taxes. It's a different situation.
Okay. So you don't know the people who earn crore rupees a day and they don't pay taxes.
Yeah,
so are you saying that
ways around it? I understand what you're trying to say.
There are people who circumvent the laws, but I'm saying that by legally there are people who don't pay taxes because the laws are different for these people. Like actually, if you look at the proportion of people in this country who pay taxes is less than 2% of the population. We are funding the entire government, and now you want to sort of like redistribute the wealth to farmers because it's morally just or justified or something like that.
No.
That should not be how things
that we should tax the farmers and we should also tax the rich. I'm saying only that. Either you don't tax the farmers and let the laws continue as they are today, wherein a guy who earns a crore.
And you know what's going to happen if you start taxing the farmers, right? They will start a protest and they will urge the government to repeal the laws because they don't like it. That is the sentiment.
So Raghav, are you really saying that the loophole in the law to allow the 1 crore per day taxpayers to escape was a kind of unintelligent oversight from the government? You are saying that the government doesn't know that there is a loophole?
Can you offer some specifics about who are these 1 crore per day earning people who are evading taxes?
I'll give you a good example. I support farmers now not paying taxes. Okay, majority of them similar way like I support reservations also, because I have seen people who actually need it, and I know there are many people who are misusing these. Okay, and I know they should be debarred from that, but there's a big loophole in agricultural laws as far as tax is concerned. And the situation is, if I am an agriculturist, okay, And this is a big problem where the biggest black money of our country is hiding. So if I'm an agriculturist and I buy a property of 100 crore, okay, and then I sell it for 1000 crores, so I made a profit of 900 crores. If it is an agricultural property, from a vicinity point of view, which is a little bit far from the Gram Panchayat or the Gram Sabha, which is called Gauthan, okay, I'm giving example of Maharashtra right now. So if you're outside that Gauthan by, let's say, 1500 meters, that's 1.5 kilometer, and the property is worth 100 crore and you sold it for 900 crore or 1000 crore, the 900 crore you make is non-taxable. Imagine that. And if you have inherited a property and then you are trying to sell it, it gets that long-term tax gain profit tax you have to pay. So this one loophole for selling agricultural land, I don't stand for that. Other than that, the normal taxable income, where a farmer makes 5 lakh, 7 lakh, 8 lakh, 9 lakh, 10 lakh, they should be exempted. But the big guys running all these machineries, having 100 acres of lands and misusing all these, should be taken to task. Same way goes for the reservation also. Who don't need it, they should not be given. But most of the people who are genuinely needy and cannot survive without them, they should be considered.
Yeah, I think that's a balanced view. Don't you agree, Raghav, everybody?
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying that I think you're creating a false equivalence when you talk about people who are circumventing laws and doing things and putting them in the same as the farmers, because like farmers are legally inheriting these exemptions, but there are people who are violating law. That is a different game. You can't equate the two.
That I agree. Yeah, there are people who willfully violate the laws, and they should be taken to task. So
yeah, the reason why I'm like pro farm bill is that it's trying to like bring the farmers from a special category to the normal category by opening them to the market. And I just believe that the primary reason why there are farmer protests is that there is a lack of trust. They just feel that the government is setting up the trap to sort of like bury them, and that mistrust is, in some ways, it is justified because they don't know what's going to happen in the future. It is kind of like a opening up things. There is a certain like emergence from a closed, safe environment to a more open, uncertain environment. Okay, so for the kind of change that happened in the 1990s, with the reforms that we had to economically open up the market of India. Imagine like if you were living in the same country where you only had the Raj of the domestic players and no foreign players were involved in this. You have the exact same arguments to be made against that as we have now for the opening up the market of the agriculture. There are people who are having a socialist mindset. They want to have prioritize safety over efficient rewiring of the whole system. And that is what I think.
I'll give you a good example. So today, what is the per annum fees that you pay for your mobile phone? That data charges, whatever you call it. It is approximately 3,000.
3,000, yes.
3,000, right? Now, if Jio had, sorry, I don't know the time frame, but there was a time when Jio had entered the markets, right? And just to gain market share, Jio had brought down its offer price to 0 or something. I don't know the exact name of the scheme, right?
So 6.
Something was there. It was very low at that time. Now, what has happened under the carpet action that has happened in all this hangama of elections, and before that also, is that the government has taken away the whole auction mechanism of bandwidth. Now, government is giving away bandwidth to the players that they think that should be there, and they think in the sense a person thinks in the government, right? And that can be anybody. It can be the cabinet minister. It can be the prime minister. Anybody.
Very well. The same government was against the 4G spectrum scam, and the same government came to power on scams.
But I want to point to
but the point here is that No, hold on. Raghav, I just want
Go
to
ahead.
make this small point that, it is not the privatization or anything that brings down the prices or makes it efficient, it is the competition. So now, because the competition has decreased, your prices are slowly going up. And there was a news recently, like 2 days back, wherein you'll be charged extra for keeping an additional SIM in your phone. Yeah.
Exactly. But then again, you need to look at this from a different prism. Now, hota kya hai, what happens is we just stereotype situations. We just don't understand the complexity, the pluralism of this country. We are very vast, actually. So, looking at from the same prism, na, Raghav has this very liberal and very it's very growth centric, and it's very actually productive way of looking at things. But then again, if you put everybody on the same line of action, it's not going to give you same result. If somebody is starting behind the line and he is actually holding on to, there's a saying in Hindi, it says डूबते को तिनके का सहारा काफी होता है. He's having that small finger support from the government, and his family is surviving on that, or her family is surviving on that. And a big majority, let's say 5 crore only, 10 crore only, I'm not talking about all 30, 40, 50 crore people, are surviving on MG Narega and other schemes where they want. In fact, in this protest, we forgot to mention, farmers are asking for 700 rupees per day labor charges. So I don't think a hard labor of a day in 40 degrees Celsius and asking 700 rupees a day is too much. Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Okay. Finish. Yeah.
keeping all that in Vienna, it's just doing that carpet market, whatever you said, in terms of SIM and other things, people could survive it. 2,000, 3,000, and somebody can not recharge only, and they can only have incoming. If they just need some phone, out of 5 people, 6 people, 1 person can recharge in poorer sections of those lines of income groups. But as far as their source of income or earning is concerned, I don't think it's going to be that easy for these guys. So you cannot put them all in the same prism. You need to. And also this one more thing that keeps on happening all the time, as if a group of 20 lakh, 30 lakh, 40 lakh, 10 lakh people are protesting, there are 1 or 2 stupid guys are everywhere. Exceptions are everywhere. So if there are few people who do something stupid, who want to be in headlines, who actually want to gain some fame out of all these genuine demands also, they create some havoc, and people start giving, maybe they actually are linked to some Khalistani movement or something, but you cannot stereotype one person and give the same. That creates that environment in the heads of, imagine a group of 5 crore people or 10 crore people supporting somebody, and then somebody, imagine the same these farmers, Punjabi and Haryanvi people, how many of them serve in army? There's a different regiments that
Yeah,
come
but
from these
But
people.
HP, like these so the criticism, right? For example, you actually you opened up with the whole thing with the criticism that, like, these people are being referred to as Khalistani or anti-national, and even that is not the central narrative. That is like also the fringe elements on the other side for trying to brandish the entire thing as this, and that is also like that is the fringe element on this side. Okay, and so by focusing on that, you kind of like taking away the focus on the genuine criticism against this whole thing. I think
Yes.
that is
And just to add this Dubtek ko Tenka Kasara, let's make it Tenka only. Now that Tenka is here to stay. I guess people are forgetting that government also need MSP to ensure national food security. Let's keep it at Tenka only and not make that the bulk of the food sold is to this Tenka only. MSP can't handle more than what it was made for.
There are many valid reasons to it. I'm just saying you cannot taking one person up now. What I've seen closely from looking at communities and looking at the change of minds, what happens is, if you go with every agitation that has happened, be it 84, be it Punjab, be it Kashmir, be it Manipur, it's a small single spark, and some opportunistic political head decides to float on it. and then the whole swing comes in. And at that time, MSP, farmer protest, and all this becomes a very minor issue. It starts becoming impacting the whole economy, the perception of whole community, even the whole country. So it becomes a bigger issue if you just pinpoint, and especially the way media tries to flatter the government, and in the way they try to, let's say, communicate things. Sometimes they can say anything to a community. You can see many these clips out there from different media channels where one person has to say something about one person, somebody who did it, but he's not afraid to address the whole community, whether be it Sikhs, whether be it Muslims. That fear has gone. You can say anything about 5 crore people, 20 crore people, like for example, how they targeted people from Ayodhya for not getting the BJP government. The whole constituency was said that they are thankless, they will perish in hell. You cannot do that kind of assassination of people. I think that needs to stop. And what happens is, it all this MSP, food, money, it stays there, and bigger problems arise. So this becomes very small issue then. And if we have a moment where somebody from Khalistani movement starts becoming an MP, and then they realize that there is some scope and you can find a loophole in the electoral government structure and start getting these MLAs also elected. Where are we going that way? That happens when you alienate a community. And if you alienate a community, today there's no Akali Dal in Punjab. Congress and AAP are there, but they are just for, there is no connection with these governments they are having. Okay, they're choosing them for the better good, for finances, but there's that following from inside. They want somebody like Amritpal Singh now. So you are giving the whole, and you have seen 1984 happening. You have seen how disastrous these things can be. Nobody's taking into account, and they stupidly, because what happens is after 10 years, 20 years now, a generation forgets what has happened. A generation that saw ruthless and mass massacre in 47, 48 between Hindus and Muslims didn't do any. There were communal issues, but nothing happened up till 1980s. 30 years passed, everybody forgot, and then again we got to 91, and then different situations started, and now the situation is different. So we keep forgetting what happens. History repeats itself. So alienating a population in a country with more than 150, 140 crore population, and alienating 5 crore people, we think it's a small amount of people, it's small number. It is not. If you go to that region and the core of it, the epicenter of it, you won't stand there. You will feel threatened. Same goes for Kashmir also, Pulwama also, this Kapurthala also in Punjab, and all these regions.
Yeah,
Well spoken, HP. Love the way you represented it.
yeah, thank you. But I guess the media is here to kind of criticize, because I don't think anyone from the government did stood with media as far as I'm aware. But yeah, you rightly said there is a huge undercurrent of grief among the, I won't say Sikh community, but the Punjabi people.
They start associating is what my problem is. What happens is, if they don't stand for, if I'm a person who is very patriotic, and I don't buy the argument of anything separatist or Khalistani, but what happens is, if somebody is wearing a turban, is targeted, and then genuine people who are in Delhi from my family, like that Kulvinder Kaur who slapped Kangana Ranaut, is a CIF official, security official. What happens is, these people start feeling alienated, even being the part of the system and being patriotic equally. So what happens is, they are targeting my community. Once it comes to mera ghar, meri community, my family is getting targeted, whole patriotism and everything that you have been taught goes out of the window. So any community targeting gives that consistent and this collective opinion in the whole community ki, nahi, we are being targeted, we need to stick together. Especially if you see minorities, whatever happens is, you won't see it in majority Hindus and majority other places where people are in power. They don't get united together on most of the issues. But what happens in minorities, if they feel the threat, a single pinch, a single pin, they start collaborating and finding that unity. And that against one's own country becomes fatal and dangerous. So pinpointing a person is easy. Pinpointing that person's mistake is easy, but pinpointing a Punjabi community, pinpointing a Sikh community, it's a big bracket of people. And these guys run Punjab is the rice bowl, feed bowl of India. They are in army, they're everywhere. You cannot discriminate anyone. They have contributed tremendously to the country. A whole cultural theme of India, Punjabi songs, Bollywood, everything is influenced by them. And there's a lot of sacrifice people have given for this country. So stereotyping now is anyway going to create a bigger problem, is what I think.
And keeping
So
aside
what
the
do you think is
contributions,
the
even
solution?
I think the best solution is you don't become that brute authoritarian ruler who sits on the throne. Don't think that you are a Hindu Hriday Samrat like Maharaja Shivaji and like Maharana Pratap sitting. You are a elected government. You are somebody who has come from the people. In fact, the poorest of poor. You come from that section. You should always have an ear to listen. So what happens when any politician goes to any constituency? Do you think successful politicians deliver? Nobody delivers. It's impossible to give. If you're an MLA, you cannot give everything to 2 lakh people. If you're an MP, you cannot give everything to 10 lakh, 20 lakh people. But what they do is they listen. They go to your house, they can eat at your place, they can listen, and they can say, I'm with you, I'll try. So giving that opposite direction, no, you are Khalistani, I cannot listen to you, we are not on negotiating tables, you are stupid, then the narrative comes, then the bulldozing comes, and any sort of protest should be handled, not crushed. Crushing and suppressing protest is what used to happen in British times. You should not kill. If there are fatalities of 20-25 people dying in every protest now, so where does it take us? We're not a democracy then. Going by the same regime the British used to do to us when we protested. They used to kill protesters. Same is happening. This is unacceptable. You need to take measures. You need to have that demo. If you are doing world policies, you are trying to better your relations with Maldives, you're doing improving your relations with Russia and other countries. How difficult is it to send a diplomat or a negotiator to a community who actually represents you, or you yourself being a diplomat and going to their place, not wearing a turbine at the time of election and visiting this Golden Temple, going there off election season, talking to people. Nobody is stupid. If they see an intent that you want to do and you are with them, the only problem there is that perception of feeling alienated or taking away your rights. Like when you see a person who can be very harsh and let's say pro country, but then again very strong headed, he can do this demonetization like, overnight. And then again, he is not somebody who consults. Everything is run by PMO. There's no separate Secretary of Health or Secretary of Coal. No bureaucrat has balls to stand against the political will of mighty BJP. I don't see that much happening now. That much might, a little bit of dent, not much, but that has happened. But skin that approach of going towards things with a very hard iron fist, I don't see that making people nudge. That can happen in dictatorship, but where you have to go to voters every 5 years, 4 years, they're not going to listen to that iron fist and say, ki, haan, ab tanashah ho. They will retaliate, and they will retaliate in stupider ways. If things keep on continuing, what happens if some stupid one person who is very much like that CISF woman hit Kangna, there can be a sick boy somewhere who thinks something has happened and gets influenced and just blows up himself in the national capital. What will you do? Everybody will start going in that zone. These people are now not Khalistanis, these are, let's say, put a tag. You should not name even somebody that these are terrorists and all that is happening. Then what? Then the whole community that is in every vein of the country starts taking things that way. So I think that is going to complicate things. You rather don't pinpoint a majority that is more than 10 lakh, 15 lakh people. If any community is there which has a presence of 1 million, you cannot hit the community. You hit the person, you target that person, you say that person is wrong, you book that person. But that generalization is very scary.
Yeah, I beg to differ. Not that it matters, since Batman already agrees with you. Uh, I guess it kind of requires an organizational plan, because, like, I'm sorry to bring a little bit of politics into it. Like RSS did in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh. They held an immense amount of meetings. They went into each houses multiple times throughout the election campaign. And that kind of gives you visibility. That same thing needs to happen in Punjab, but not in a political sense. And it needs to keep going throughout 10 or 15 years. Not that RSS should do it, it will complicate the situation even more. But the local organizations or local groups, kind of helped by the government, to present their view and kind of go into the households twice or thrice a month, and kind of keep that visibility into the minds of people, so that they know, yes, they are kind of taken into account for, and people are listening to them. And, sometimes doing some majoritarian rallies.
But see, if you look at the way RSS is projected, okay, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh has very strong affiliations with the national Hindu line, hard line affiliations are there, associations are there. Same way in Punjab, Akali Dal is there. It is the only political organization in country which is based on religion. Akali Dal is a religious political organization. If you see, they manage these Guru Gurdwaras. They still manage the biggest Gurudwara in that Akali, in this Sukhbir Singh Badal's name. So we need to accept the diversity. You cannot look at everybody from the same prism. Na? So if Akali Dal is there, if RSS is there, they are good in the Akali Dal, RSS can be very, what do you say, influential in Madhya Pradesh, influential in Maharashtra, Nagpur, influential in Rajasthan, Gujarat. But you cannot see the impact in Kashmir. You cannot see the impact of RSS. So India is very diverse for a single-sided organization, and you need to let everybody live in their own space. If
that's why I said, bring up organizations from the ground. The
political like Akali Dal is anti-farmer law, so they are going to go in the houses and preach anti only. Na, they're not going to go pro. So the best thing is.
But at least, kind of they can see that, yes, someone who's part of the government or was part of the government has come to us. They are listening to us, adding, kind of additional to the representatives that the government is talking to. Like maybe 30, 40 people in a closed room. Another perspective could be go to the people, talk to them, let them know that, yes, we are there.
The argument is very fancy, but that doesn't happen. Now we are 150 crore people, and especially if we are driven by ideology, politics. So people, you cannot tell them, "Nahi, we are there for you." And when you do actions, for example, if you go and implement 317 J&K and block the whole state for 6 months or 10 months or a year, then COVID also comes and cut the whole online internet and phone services. And people feel caged for a year and then go to them and tell them we are with you. That is not going to work. It is going to go opposite. Even if like everybody was praising 370 and everything from past so many years, you just realize the Riyasi attacks, I think 2 days or 3 days ago. So you cannot have a single cultural movement at center of the India and then realize the other people who are not aligned to that kind of ideology and send people ki nahi, they are also your friends. What they see, they believe. It's very difficult. It's a very confusing topic and it has no end to it. But then again, as far as these laws and these situations are considered, my point is a little bit more concerned and that open air and giving them respect rather than targeting them and associating them to these organizations, outlaw organizations. I believe that is the real culprit, and that can damage in a bigger way, even bigger than the actual implementation of these laws and the benefits government and people can get. It can have more adverse effect if you start character assassination and associating people to these outlaw firms.
Yeah, the hardline approach should be against the individual, and let's just not generalize communities. There
Yes,
are one or two outliers everywhere.
exactly. That is the point. You cannot say one or two people and they represent the whole community. That's not that. Anyways, it was a good discussion, man. I think we spent a good. How much is it? It has been 2 hours, yeah.
Yes, and I'll just remind
Yeah.
you of a text that you sent in the beginning of the meeting that, hey guys, I have no such opinion on the meet. I'll just listen to you guys.
Yeah, I had this idea to meet up face to face.
Hmm. But we're from different states, I guess. No,
So I am from Bangalore.
I'm from Pune.
A few are from Chennai.
I'm from Pune. Raghav is from Chennai.
You are from Pune, okay. Yeah, that's a challenge.
Well, I think once we reach some platform, and I at the initiation of this conversation didn't think people will only 2 or 3 people getting it. But then I think it goes down now. Once the election is done, whatever is hot does not become that hot after the elections.
Environment later.
Election goes, the steam gets blown off. So it's not that strong. I think NEET is something that's happening right now that is catching the eye of people. The protests and everything.
This way. Yeah, before we leave, does Batman have to say anything?
Where is he? From Gotham.
Likely.
Yeah, Batman is just listening. That's all. All right. ठीक है.
Sorry, guys.
All right. Nice. We'll catch up later.
Yeah, maybe
all right.
Saturday we'll see each other. Yeah, na?
Yeah.
I hope
Sure.
something is coming up. Okay. Okay, guys.